Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sofa Sports News Show. I'm your host Harry and I'm joined by a couple of the usual suspects this evening. Firstly, Mr. Dan DeLuca. Dan, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Gutted the weekend's nearly over.
My weekend's barely started and it's over these days, but there you go.
That's what happens. It goes by way too quickly. We're also joined this evening by the man they call the fisherman, Mr. Alavi. Nice to see your face again.
Cheers, mate. How you doing? You well? Family well?
Yeah, not too bad. All good, man. All good. Right, I guess we said we were going to talk about transfers this evening, so I guess we should start on the kind of breaking news. Really, it looks as though Nemanja Matic is on his way to Old Trafford for a reunion with Jose Mourinho. I have to say that we did say this one was going to happen quite a while back. We got a really good Manchester United source here at Sofa Sports News, so we're really grateful for that. And this is the second time he's come good now. Alavi, starting with you. Matic, is it a good signing? Is it what Manchester United are missing?
I think he was clearly unhappy and he wanted to go, and Chelsea have already replaced him. So if you're Matic and a defensive midfielder comes in and then Kante's already there, you're not going to stay, are you? That's the thing. So I think he was pushed. Like you've said before, he is a Mourinho sort of player. I don't know. I think Man United have now got a good spine because they've obviously bought a central defender to accompany by. They've bought a defensive midfielder. They've got Lukaku up front. Do I think he's worth that much? No, but this is the market we're in. So I think it's a meh signing. Does that make sense? It's
an okay signing.
Yeah. He's not going to light the world on fire, is he? I think he was actually carried by Chelsea last season. I really do. From a Chelsea perspective, they're free to use him because they've already replaced him with a much better player. Another player in that position won the Players' Player of the Year and the Writers' Player of the Year, etc. So I think Chelsea have done good business, to be honest. And yeah, like I said, I think it's just an average signing for Man United. How about you two boys?
Well, I mean, before we go to you, DeLuca, I just want to say that this signing has been in the pipeline for a while. Yeah. I don't understand the shock that's come from some people this evening. It was obvious to me that as soon as the Bakayoko deal was done, this was going to happen. Dan, what do you make of it? Would you be happy with that signing as a Man United supporter?
Well, I'd be happy with the signing as a Man United supporter because that's the position I look at Man United needing to strengthen in. They need a defensive midfielder in there. Carrick's old. No one else really does that job. Herrera doesn't really seem natural in the role, even though he's a good player. So they've got a destroyer type player. So I think it's a good position to be strengthening in. But I'm with Alavi. Matic, he's not my favourite player in the world. I think he's a solid player. I think he's a good player. I'm surprised at the signing because in the year Mourinho failed at Chelsea spectacularly, the third season, the second time round, Matic was one of the players I felt letting down the most with some of these performances. So I'm a bit surprised that it's worked out that way. I know Mourinho is quite loyal to his players once he leaves. And there's situations in the past where he went to United and we thought that Juan Mata would be first out the door, but he seems to have struck up the relationship again. So there's no reason why the same can't happen here. But I think it's a good signing. It's solid, nothing more than that, really. I mean, he's a good player, but he's not a world-beating defensive midfielder. And they are hard to come by. So I think it's I'll let you sum it up perfectly. It's a mess signing. I think he'll do all right.
But isn't it amazing we've described a player like that and the amount he's gone for? It's absolutely crazy. Like when we were kids and Andy Cole went for 7 million and we thought that was amazing. And now we're describing a player and he's going for all that money.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're going to talk about the market a lot over the next half hour, I guess.
Yeah.
And the market's bad enough as it is. Then you get the plus 10 million because it's a Premier League club selling, and the plus 10 million because it's a Premier League club buying. Then you get a plus 10 million because he's already won the championship. By the time you start adding all these things up, before you know it, you're spiraling into ridiculous figures. And I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon.
I do think Herrera is key for Man United, and one thing this signing does is it means that Mourinho's got no temptation to play Herrera more defensively.
Yeah, I agree.
Herrera's almost too good for his own good. You know, like he's their best defensive midfielder, and he's also at times their best attacking midfielder. But pound for pound, he's slightly better at attacking midfield, so it means that he has to play there. Does that make sense? So I think that is one benefit. But you know, they could have found someone for 10 million to do that job. So
I think with Mourinho, particularly in the defensive roles, he's very meticulous defensively, and having someone he knows will be worth an extra few million to Mourinho. Someone he trusts to do the job he asks. And I don't know what happened at Chelsea that season, but it wasn't just Matic. So maybe we can forgive him for that and see how it works out. But I think having the knowledge, having worked with him on a training ground, that would be worth something to Mourinho. I mean, when you look at the alternative, and we'll come on to Tottenham, I'm sure, in a minute, but they're talking about Eric Dyer. If Mourinho's got those two options on the table and he knows who he trusts, he knows exactly what he's going to do, he knows his weaknesses, he knows what to work on, it's got to be worth it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Dan. I think despite Nemanja Matic will never be that player that you look at and you go, wow. But he does a job, and he will do exactly what Mourinho asks of him. And like you said, they're missing that type of player, that player with a bit of bite in the middle of the park. You know, what I like to call a deep line playmaker who just collect the ball and play a simple pass and get them ticking and get them going. And that's what Matic does for me. While we're on the subject of Manchester United, we spoke about this one a few weeks ago, but Dan, we never got your thoughts on this one. Romelu Lukaku, is he worth the hype? Is he worth the money?
Again, it's exactly the same situation, and I don't want to come across like I'm having a pop at all of Man United's summer business, but I went on a show on Shoot the Defence about 2 months ago when Lukaku was linked with Chelsea and others, and I said I'm surprised Man United aren't in for him, and that's because the style he plays is a replacement, if you like, for Ibrahimovic, as in a strong target man, and he's got a solid goal record in the Premier League. So you factor that in, it's a good signing. I described him as a flat track bully, and one of the Man United fans on the show agreed to some extent. So last season he was in my fantasy team from start to finish. The guy scores goals. He's going to score goals at Man United. My criticism of him is he hasn't done it as often as I'd like from a top striker in the big games. I know he picked up a couple of goals last season against the bigger sides away from home, but he's going to get chances at Man United, and it's a chance to prove himself. So if you look at the players Man United are in for up front, you know, for ridiculous money, you don't know how that's going to work out. Morata, I think he'll do okay, but you never know how a player's going to adjust to the Premier League, particularly one who's kind of delicate in size and stature. So of the options on the table, I still think it's the best option they've gone for, and I think he'll score goals. The thing with Man United is, last season they had Ibrahimovic, who scored 20-odd goals. So replacing him with Lukaku, that's not necessarily going to improve the team massively. So I'm not overly excited about it again. With Man United, I think the most significant signing for Man United is the one we've yet to discuss, which is Lindelof. Which will really provide a really solid, even more solid backline for Mourinho to build on. And Matic, which, like you said, frees up Herrera. And Mkhitaryan, apart from Kante, was probably my signing for the season last season. Mkhitaryan really impressed me. So having those two with a little bit more freedom, with the guys behind solid, to allow them to play, I think that's where their best business is. Lukaku will score goals over the course of game 1 to 38. He'll rack goals up. It's just he does go missing in games, and Man United, he's not going to get away with that as often as he did at Everton. So we'll see how that works out. So
Victor Lindelof, you touched on him just there. Is he the answer for Manchester United? What do you know about him? How good is he? Because I'll put my hands up. I don't know too much about Victor Lindelof, and so I was surprised that Jose didn't go out and get a more proven centre half, if you like he has done in the past. You know, he tends to be one that goes for the proven option. You know, so is Victor Lindelof as good as people say? Do you guys know anything about him?
I've seen
Go on.
bits of him. Go on, Abby.
No, go on.
So I've seen bits of him. Obviously, I've not watched him extensively, but what I see is I see a solid centre half who can play the ball as well. Where they didn't really have that. You're looking at Smalling, not cutting it. Jones, it's never quite worked out for him there. So he reminds me a bit of Carvalho in the way he's very difficult to get through, but when he does have the ball at his feet, he can distribute it as well, similar to a Vertonghen type player. And with Bailey, or I'm doing a Lavi for pronouncing players now, but with him by his side, who had a brilliant first season, I think between the two of them, you've got a reliable centre half pairing, and that's exactly what Mourinho needs to go about managing the rest of the team. Without that basis, Mourinho, he's a very defensive manager, yes, but he's managed sides where he's attacked a lot as well. But I don't think throughout his entire career, Mourinho has the confidence to attack until he knows what he's leaving behind there. And I think with Lindelof and Bailly as the back two, with Matic protecting them, that will be the license to see Man United attacking. And I think last season's dour performances will be a lot fewer.
Yeah, I think how many seasons have you remembered, going into season and you think the Man United back two picks itself, and it sort of finally does. So I think that's going to be the real key. Also, they're both quite young, the centre-backs. So people have been saying, is this the new Vidic and Rio? You never know. They're both young as well, so both powerful. I'd say Lindelof's probably better on the ball, which is what he has over Bailly. Whilst Bailly he's a lot tougher, he's a lot stronger. They're both quick. So, look, it's an improvement on Jones and Smalling. So if you're a Man United fan, you're happy at that.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. It is an improvement on Jones and Smalling and some of the other clowns they've had there in recent years. I just, Bailly did well last season. I just worry about Lindelof settling quickly, and I think, I'm personally surprised that he didn't go for a more, a more tried and tested option. Someone who's played in one of the super leagues, if you want to say it like that, in Europe, rather than someone who's been at Benfica. Guys, let's move on to the other Manchester club. They've done some serious business this summer, spending extortionate amounts of money as usual. Dan, what are your thoughts on Manchester City's signings? Just to remind everybody, they've signed Bernardo Silva, Ederson, Kyle Walker, Danilo, and Mendy so far. Do you think they've strengthened in the right places?
Well, yes, in the right places, because you look at them last season, they needed a defence. They've got an aging defence, which they've cleared out. Kolarov has gone to Serie A. Zabaleta was released on a free. He's gone to West Ham on loan, who we'll probably cover in a minute. So, yeah, they've signed defenders. Have they signed the right defenders? I'm not so sure. The amount they've spent, is it Guardiola refusing to coach players again? I'm not sure. He's throwing money left, right, and centre. I think there's a key point here that the role of the fullback is as important as it's ever been in world football, especially with teams reverting to 3-5-2. So he's recognised that, and he signed 2 right backs, which is incredible, really, when you think of the amount of money he spent on both of them. He signed a left back. My only concern, I guess, is he signed a left back from a team who can't defend in Monaco, and Kyle Walker, who for me was the best right back in the league last season. And despite what any Spurs fan says, I'm sad to see him leave the first team. His weakness is probably defensively. So I think what he's done is he's improved a lot in terms of the attacking element of the fullbacks he's got, and you'll see him join in the attack. But when Man City come against sides, which won't happen very often and they're under pressure, I still don't think he's got that solid back four that will get him through tough games when he's under pressure, possibly away from home. So he's strengthening the right areas, but I still don't think he's done enough to that back four, to be honest.
I've got to disagree with you on one point, Dan. For me, Danilo is class, man. I know I'm biased because I watch more Spanish football than any other league, but to me, the guy, I think I remember seeing his goal ratio when he was at Porto before Madrid, and he got like 10 goals in 90 games for a defender, which is pretty decent.
He is
class, man. He's quick, he's strong, he's powerful. He's good on the ball. Honestly, I'd pick him over any of their fullbacks. I know what you're going to say now about Kyle Walker, but
he'll be their second. He'll be their second choice right
back. He shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. Honestly, and it's funny you say that about 4 at the back because. All right, this is an example, right? I was doing my fantasy team a couple of days ago, and I did ask Harry about 1 or 2 things regarding Arsenal, but I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to pick any City defenders. And the reason for that was because I don't know who they're going to play. Like, you kept on saying 4 at the back. So are they going to go 4 at the back and then play, I don't know, Torre, the 2 Silvers, KDB, Sane and Aguero? Or do they go 3 at the back and play Gundogan, Holding and... I don't know, Walker and Sane as the 2 wing backs and, Aguero up front and do they leave Sterling out? And it's just so difficult. So for me, City's just, I couldn't tell you their starting lineup at all. And that for me is quite worrying. If you're signing someone like Danilo and you don't know that he's going to even play a few games, that's crazy.
But
absolutely crazy.
Isn't that just a sign of the extortionate amounts of money that this club have available to them at the moment? The fact that they can go and spend, over 120 million pounds on fullbacks, and one of them might not even get in the team, it's crazy. How are people supposed to compete with that? Like Dan mentioned, Dan made a really good point about, the role of the fullback has never been so important, and I agree with you. I think if you look back at Pep Guardiola's successful Barcelona side, a lot of emphasis was put on the likes of Dani Alves and, bombing forward and joining the attack. My only concern is that this league is very different to La Liga. And I don't know whether having such expansive and adventurous fullbacks can work unless you really compensate for it in the middle by maybe playing 3 centre-halves or 2 defensive midfielders. And I'm just not sure Pep Guardiola will do that. I'm not sure he's that defensively minded. I'm not sure that he even cares about defending that much, to be honest. And that's where I see them falling a little bit short once again.
Well, who's going to sit out? As I know we're covering defence, but who's sitting out up front? Because I know Iheanacho is on his way out, but someone like Jesus or Sane or Aguero or Sterling or one of the 2 Silvers. I don't know. I think you have to start the 2 Silvers. And I think Kevin De Bruyne's proved that he's probably their best player at times, especially in pre-season. But 2 or 3 of those guys are sitting out, right? And they're big players. How's he managing that?
I think you'll see a bit, again, with a right-back situation, you'll see a bit of rotation throughout the Champions League games, the Cup games, etc., etc. So you'll see some rotation up front as well. You mentioned pre-season. I watched Man City last night, and they were absolutely awesome. Yeah. They played Tottenham, and they gave us a really, really good seeing to.
De Bruyne in particular was. I thought he
De Bruyne run the show.
Stood out.
And against Real Madrid last week, earlier in the week, they were absolutely brilliant again, and the same players again. They've really got it going up front, and I think he's made it clear. Aguero's not his man. For whatever reason, I'll never understand it, but Aguero is not his man. And I think Gabriel Jesus will be the guy he turns to in the big games. Whether it's the style he wants to play, the interchanging front 3, and Aguero doesn't interchange enough, it seems a pathetic reason to leave him out. I find it absolutely unbelievable. But I don't think Aguero is going to be his first choice striker, which is ridiculous. But I think we've got to sit and prepare for watching a season of football with Aguero sitting on the bench.
See, for me, Aguero is, I know it sounds crazy, he, for me, is the best player in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you in a rush, but he's made it clear to me that he's not his man. And Jesus was brought in, he was already starting games ahead of Aguero before last season ended.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see what's going to change. I don't see what's going to change over the summer.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how City line up and what they can achieve next season. Let's move on to the other cash-rich club, if you like, Roman Abramovich's Chelsea. They've spent again. They recruited Willy Caballero from Manchester City, actually, on a free transfer. Well, he was released and then they picked him up. They've also signed Rudiger, the centre half from Roma.
Of a German, yeah.
Yep, Bakayoko, as we mentioned earlier, from Monaco, and Alvaro Morata. What do you think? Was Morata Antonio Conte's first choice all along, or what do you believe here?
Do you know what? I do believe that he was, because them and Man United were after Chelsea for a while. I'll tell you, this is going to probably come out as a stupid comment when the listeners hear it, but have Chelsea actually improved that much? Because right now, Costa's on his way out, right? So is Morata going to get the goals that Costa does? And okay, they've signed a centre-back. Do they need another centre-back? I know Terry's left. You know, so who have they added? Haven't they got Sandro as well? I don't know if you mentioned him.
It's not done yet.
Oh, I think that's as good as done, isn't it? But if they sign him, so is Alonso not going to play? And then, okay, they've signed Bakayoko, but all right, he's better than Matic. So that's the one area they've improved in. But I mean, that's another defensive midfielder. So when you look at it position for position, how much have they actually improved?
But
that's
Alavi,
my point.
You said about, if they get a left back in, maybe Marcos Alonso will miss some games. But like Dan said previously, and I agree with that, you need more than two fullbacks nowadays. You know, you've got the Champions League, you've got the cup competitions. These players are going to get games. So I don't necessarily think that bringing in another player in a certain position means that, you know, someone who's been a success for you is all of a sudden going to be cold on the bench. We're seeing more and more in the modern game that you do need a squad. And it seems to me like Antonio Conte, like Pep Guardiola, is trying to assemble a bigger squad. Because remember, last season, Chelsea were not in the Champions League. Chelsea pretty much played the same team throughout the season. All right, there was a few injuries here and there and a few changes, but overall the spine and the heart of the team remained the same. So is it not just the case of Antonio Conte recognizing that he needs to build his squad in order to handle the further competitions this year?
But I'm saying, if you look at the three mega rich clubs and you look at their squad at the start of last season and the start of this season, I'd probably say Chelsea's have made the lesser of the improvements.
Yeah, that's fine, and I'll say the same in a minute. When people are talking about Tottenham and their lack of business, Chelsea are the team that are there to be caught. The other teams need to work out how to catch Chelsea. And let's be fair, compared to Manchester United and Manchester City, Chelsea absolutely blitzed them out of the water last season. They weren't even close. They didn't lay a glove on Chelsea. So I expect those teams to do more business trying to catch up. And I expect Chelsea to strengthen a little bit to keep things fresh and juggle the extra competitions. The lack of Champions League last season obviously was a benefit. So my concern with Chelsea and what they've bought, maybe Morata was their first choice signing striker. Maybe he wasn't. I know he's worked with Conte before, which might have been a plus. But you look at Chelsea historically, teams play certain styles. They've not had this type of striker. Drogba was their big powerhouse up front. Then you move on to Costa, big powerhouse, bully, massive, strong players. Now suddenly you're replacing him with a fast, sort of tricky little forward, similar to Torres. We know how that worked out with Chelsea. So it's a change in the team style, which worries me more than a change in personnel.
I think, though, I think Morata's a reasonably big guy, though. Like he's quite strong. But I think what I'm finding interesting with Chelsea, and I think it's going to be a real issue next year, is does Morata play, because he can do both, does he play furthest up front? Or, and I don't know, I'm sure you saw the game, Harry, or does he play on the left wing? Because the other day he played on the left wing and for some reason Batshuayi played up front. Now, Morata for me is someone who can do both jobs. And I think the problem with being able to do both jobs is sometimes you're a victim of like flexibility. So he is someone who he's reasonably big. He's a strong person. He holds the ball up. Six of his 15 goals, I think, were from headers last season. But he's quick as well. Like Dan said, he's tricky, etc. So do you play him on the left to accommodate someone who is this Batshuayi any good? Am I sleeping on him? You know, like, am I not realising that he's actually any good? Because to me, I would play Morata as the furthest forward and just have, your Pedros and your Hazards, etc., all running off him. So I was really surprised that his starting lineup the other day.
I think that Alvaro Morata can play that sort of target man role. He can do it. I think he's got a bit more about him than that. You get some target men and you just say, this guy is a target man, lump the ball up to him. He'll hold up play. But there is more to Alvaro Morata than that. Yeah, like Alavi said, I think he can play as a sort of wide forward as well. For me, I'd like to see him play through the middle centre forward.
Yeah.
Just touching on the Batshuayi thing, and I know preseason friendlies are not anything really to go by, but he really impressed me in their 3-0 victory over my team, Arsenal, a few days ago. He looked sharp. He knows where the goal is. And I think we have to be fair. He was signed by Chelsea last season on quite a big fee, around about £35 million, I believe. He didn't really get many chances. And that's partly because Diego Costa was, excuse my language, but shit hot last season. And, he managed to stay out of trouble. There weren't the suspensions that he's had in the past. Not many injury problems. He had that little incident where he appeared to fall out with Conte. I think that was around January, and he appeared to be on his way, and then they sort of resolved it. For me, Conte's got options there. Pedro can slot into that position. Hazard can play from the left, from the right. They can interchange, and Chelsea have options there. If I was a Chelsea fan, that's not an area I'd be concerned about, to be honest. Right, let's move on to the mighty Arsenal. Transfer business so far. We've managed to recruit Sead Kolasinac on a free transfer and Alexander Lacazette for around about 50 million euros. Dan, you're from the other side of North London, but what do you make of Alexander Lacazette? Was it the right signing?
I think it was a good timing of a signing as well. So obviously it weren't a great season, finished on a massive high, and then you followed it up with an early transfer of a big name. So the question is he a replacement for Sanchez or is he not a replacement for Sanchez? Because if he is a replacement for Sanchez, obviously if Sanchez goes, he's not going to fill that void. So it's disappointing in that respect, but that's not his fault. I think it's a good signing. You can't knock it. They've gone out there and they've brought in a guy who has scored goals last season. He scored goals a season before. He's got a good touch. He's quick, and he fits into the style Arsenal plays. So I'd be pretty pleased with the signing of an Arsenal fan, as I imagine you are, and a lot of the guys on network who have commented on his transfer are pretty pleased. So I think it's a good bit of business for Arsenal. How many goals is he going to score? I don't know. It's any striker who comes into the league from abroad needs to get an early goal in his first, 2 or 3 games, confidence up, and then before you know it, the things get easier. The goals are the same size in any league you play in. The defenders in the Premier League, I don't think are up there in the best in the world. I know the French defenders aren't necessarily either, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for him if he gets an early goal. If he doesn't score in the first 3 or 4 games, things start getting a little bit down at Arsenal. You know what it gets in the crowd at Arsenal. Wenger's been given a 2-year deal. 30,000 people were going to be happy with it. 30,000 people aren't. If he gets off to a bad start, he hasn't scored, the atmosphere in the ground turns toxic. How's that going to affect him? But, let's put the price to one side again, because it's unfair to keep... The market is the market. If someone said to you, look, you can have the season, everyone's going to say, yeah, bring him in. Let's take a punt on him. So I think it's a good bit of business for Arsenal. They need to do some more strengthening for me if they're going to compete for the title next season, which is what Arsenal want to be doing. But, there's still 2 weeks to go, I guess. 4 weeks ago to the end of the window.
Yeah. It's not the worst 3 in the world to play up front, is it? Him and Ozil and Sanchez. Like, you'd be pretty happy if you're an Arsenal fan and You saw those three up front. I wanted to ask you about the Bosnian though. Well, either of you, because I haven't seen much of him, but I know he's like really versatile, and I don't know again if that's a good or a bad thing. Is he just going to be covered then as a free? You know, I know he got like load of assists. It wasn't he like one of the highest assisting defender or something. But that's a bit skewed because he actually in the Bundesliga, I think it was, he actually played in midfield quite a bit. So I don't see where he's. I know I asked you this, Harry, a couple of days ago, but like, where's he slotting in? Like, where's Monreal playing? Where's Bet? Like, is he definitely going three at the back? You know, should they have maybe signed that Tessino a while back and had more strength going forward? I don't know. I just don't know with Wenger. I don't know if it's all a ploy in first game of the season. He's going to go four at the back and surprise everyone.
So for me, I think it's pretty clear based on the way we've lined up in pre-season that Wenger is considering starting the season with this three men at the back and the two wing backs. In answer to your question about Nacho Monreal, I actually believe that Nacho Monreal will be playing as one of the centre halves this season.
The left centre half.
Yeah. I think he's shown time and time again that he's very comfortable there. He's very comfortable on the ball, experienced, got a lot of know-how. I personally think he's one of our better defenders. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nacho moves inside and plays that role. Sead Kolasinac, the only way I can describe him is imagine Julio Baptista as a wing back.
I'm very worried.
Yeah, he is a beast.
he is literally a beast. He picks up the ball, very confident on the ball, carries the ball very well, built like a tank, gets forward very well. Got a few assists yesterday in the pre-season friendly. I know it's only a pre-season friendly, but he did perform. For me, he looks a good acquisition. And I mean, when you start picking up players on frees, you can't really have too much complaints. You know, you hope that he does well, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Do you know what I mean?
Is it one of those where you think, if this is the only player we're going to sign across the defence and the midfield, then I'm worried. However, if it's just an addition, then he's free. Fair enough. He can play across the defence. He can play in a couple of positions in midfield. So why not?
Well,
but if that is it, then I don't know if, you can't compare that to like Man City, can you?
No, of course. But I look at Kolasinac he was available on a free. He's a good addition. I believe Kieran Gibbs will leave the club this summer. And so he's a replacement for Kieran Gibbs. I think he's got a lot more to offer than Kieran Gibbs. I think he's more of a wing back. I know people say Kieran Gibbs likes to get forward and stuff, but the wing back role is very different. And people need to understand that just because you're pacey playing as a fullback, it doesn't mean that you will make a good wing back. It's a different role. You need to understand the role. You need to do your defensive work when it's necessary. A lot of managers, Pep Guardiola being one of them, as we mentioned earlier, expect their wing backs to sometimes tuck inwards and complement the defensive midfield players. So it's a very different role. Kolasinac for me seems as though he's well equipped to play that role. He's physically strong, looks, like I said earlier, decent on the ball and will get forward. I'm happy with what I've seen of him so far, but I'm not jumping the gun because I'm literally basing that on a few pre-season friendlies.
You've ever done better business than Spurs then? Or?
Well, before we move on to Spurs, because that will be a short section, no doubt. I still think that Arsenal need to recruit in the centre of the park. I think that Aaron Ramsey and Granit Xhaka do complement each other well, but I don't see Aaron Ramsey staying fit for the duration of the season. It's proved time and time again that he can't stay fit. He's got dodgy hamstrings. Gives you a fantastic engine in the middle of the park, but I'd like to see us get one more player in there. Francis Coquelin, for me, isn't good enough. Mohamed El Neni is okay. But looking at pre-season, it looks as though, he may be moved back into a centre-half role.
Didn't he start, like, the other day?
He started a few games this summer playing at centre-half. So I don't know if Wenger's got that in mind. talking about El Neni, I know that Leicester made a bid for him this summer. The bid was accepted by Arsenal, and El Neni himself rejected a move away. So he's willing to stay and fight for his place, whether that means him sort of having to give up a midfield role and trying to fill a gap somewhere else in the team. Who knows? Anyway, let's move on to Spurs. Dan, your beloved Spurs. Before we went on the show tonight, before we went live, I did put up a list of all the Premier League clubs' business so far, and Spurs' was blank. What do you make of it?
Dan, I'll add as well, because I was going to ask you about the while you're on the topic. They want the Real Madrid sort of forgotten midfielder, don't they, Kovacic? So I wanted to know what you thought of that. And obviously 1 year before a World Cup, that is the time you want to sign a pretty decent player, someone who's hard to get the ball of, who just wants to play in the World Cup so badly that they're not willing to risk not playing first team football. So get that in your answer as well, because I'm interested in what you think of him and whether he can bring anything to the Spurs side. If he's, because I think Spurs are actually likely to sign him. So see what you think of that one.
DDL, we lost you.
I think he's like Spurs' transfers.
He's hiding.
He's gone quiet.
Spurs. That's all right. Let's
get on. Harry, who's the other? Who have we missed? Oh, Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool was the next on the list. Let's move on to Liverpool. We'll come back to Dan in a little bit. Liverpool don't really know what they're playing at, to be honest.
No, I'm like, this might be the first time we agree. I'm literally, if I was a Liverpool fan, I would be so annoyed. Like they're probably going to lose Coutinho as well, and they want to replace him with Borussia Dortmund midfielder. What's his name? Is it Perisic? I think they want to replace him with him. Like, I cannot believe what Liverpool are playing at. But go on, you go first. But it might be the first time we agree for a while.
Well, I just think that Liverpool they achieved their goal last season. They qualified for the Champions League. Well done to them. They pipped us to fourth. I just felt that this was a summer for Liverpool to go out there, make a statement, sign a couple of big names, and improve their squad to the point where they could compete, possibly for the Premier League title, and have a good run in the Champions League. You know, they've gone out and they've brought in Solanke, Robertson at left back, which I agree they needed a left back. So I think that issue's been addressed. Not convinced Robertson is the answer. Not convinced he's at the Champions League level. Mo Salah, bit of a Chelsea reject. The only thing I would say about him is he's very mobile, very quick. And that is something that Klopp seems to like in his attacking players. So it's interesting that he's gone for him. Whether he can, turn on the form and prove Chelsea wrong in a way, I don't know. It remains to be seen. Alavi, what do you think of their current business?
Like, I think Klopp wants everyone to think that he's got a master plan, but he just hasn't. Like, the players he's let go as well are really surprising, because I think he looks quite resigned to either losing Coutinho this year or next year. But the one I'm really surprised in is the Crystal Palace defender. Like, just get him back. For me, it sounds crazy because he's at Palace, but he's one of the best centre-backs in the league. And if you're going to let Saka go for whatever he's willing to let him go for, 25, 30 million, and you're bringing those three names that you mentioned, like, imagine you're a Liverpool fan. You've had all those years of glory, and then it's gone quiet for so many years. You finally, like you said, just as Alavi predicted, you've got in the Champions League, right?
Had to get that in.
Yeah. And you go and they're your three signings. For me, I'm really, really, really shocked. Like, I think Dan, you said something earlier, like Klopp must just believe his own hype. Like, that must be it, because I've backed him all season. I cannot believe that he is going about the summer business like he is now. Go on.
You've pulled punches a little bit, right? I like Klopp. Let's start with that. I like him. He's a good manager. He's a great guy, right? But this is what happens when you've got managers with big personalities. They make mistakes based on their egos, like the Sacco situation. He's the best centre half of the club, right? He's got a style of football that's worked for him at Dortmund. Brilliant. He's done a great job. He's come to Liverpool. He thinks he's going to be the same. It doesn't work like that. It's not going. It hasn't worked for Pep Guardiola, and he might buy his way out of trouble. He might change his ways. This is now Klopp's third season. He needs to do something different. And the bottom line is, you have to be able to defend. You can't go around attacking, doing what you like. Salah's a great signing. He fits into that. Can you imagine Mane on one side, Salah on the other, Lallana in the middle? I know it's Solanke up front. I'm not going to criticise Solanke because I've criticised Chelsea for not giving him a shot. I think he's a decent player. He's not Champions League level quality, but that's not his fault. He's not had any opportunities, so he's going to get some now. But you have to be able to defend. The goalkeeping situation at Liverpool, it's a shambles. It's an absolute shambles. He's not addressed that. He's not addressed it. Like, there's got to be a goalkeeper somewhere in the world who can catch a football. They've got two at the club who can't do that. The fullback situation, it's awful. They had Moreno still playing some games last season. I don't know what that's about. I know Lucas has left the club. He had to play some games at centre half. So the centre half situation is a mess. Lovren, he's a good player, but he's not really kicked on at Liverpool. He's not. He's stepped up a level in terms of the club he's playing at, and his performances hasn't gone with him. Henderson's a decent player. I like him, but the defensive midfield positions isn't strong enough. And Coutinho, assuming he's fit, he'll interchange with. Well, he'll start. So either I assume Salah will drop to the bench, will he, or will Lallana drop deeper, or will Lallana play on the bench, or will he do the false nine thing? You've still got Firmino, hasn't been mentioned. So you look, all the good players you're listing in a row. It's 6 attacking players who can interchange positions, which is what Klopp likes. Hence,
I actually quite like Salah, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, I like
I
Salah.
disagree with Harry. Where I think he could actually be a very decent.
No,
player.
I mean,
I think it was Chelsea that made the mistake. Actually, I don't think he's a reject, like you said.
I mean, sorry guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Salah is not a good player. What I'm trying to say is that, and I said it, Salah fits into the Klopp philosophy. He's quick, he's sharp, he's mobile. He's everything that Jurgen Klopp looks for in an attacking player. But this guy came to England. He didn't cut it for whatever reason. Maybe it was for the lack of opportunity at Chelsea. Who knows? But I would have just liked to have seen Liverpool go out there, make a statement, go and sign 2 or 3 good players that are going to improve your team and help you to cope with the demands of a Champions League and Premier League campaign. Because it seems to me like Liverpool have spent the whole summer obsessing over this Leipzig midfielder, Keita, who they're not even going to sign. Klopp seems to have got it all wrong, in my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool drop out of the top 4 next season and really struggle.
I'm not backing them for the top 4 this time. No way.
They'll definitely drop out of the top 4. They were lucky in many ways to make it this time around. The one thing I will say about Liverpool is this mythical or non-mythical transfer committee, whoever these people are. I don't know what have they had a say in some of these deals, or more to the point, have they turned down targets that Klopp may have been interested in? I refuse to accept that a manager who's led teams to league titles, Champions League finals, has not tried to address that defensive situation. I refuse to accept that. So there's something not quite right there at Liverpool for me. There's something not quite right at all.
Dan, we lost you earlier when I think you went missing like Arsenal out the top 4 last season. We tried to ask you about Spurs, but it got cut off. So do you want to give us your opinion on Spurs' sort of transfers, and also obviously the Real Madrid target I asked you a couple of days about?
Yeah, sorry, I was doing my Ozil impression. I'd made my assist in the first half, so I didn't feel like to do anything else. But I came back. I come back for the lap of honour, so that's fine. Tottenham. I suppose similar to Liverpool. The first thing is when you get in the Champions League, you want that to be the excuse to go and sign someone you wouldn't normally be able to obtain. If you can extend the show by like 2 seconds, we can talk about Tottenham's incomings. There we go. 0 players. So, yeah, disappointed in that respect. I think what is clear this summer then, as a result of how we've gone about our business, is what our target is for the season. Our target this season clearly is not to try and kick on and win the league. We seem to be happy with what we achieved the last 2 seasons. And we've had an opportunity to take a gamble and we've not taken it. Whether that's because partly to do with a new stadium, I don't really think that's a good enough reason, to be honest, or whatever it may be. So in terms of transfer business, I said to you guys earlier on in the summer, we will sign Ross Barkley at 2:00 in the morning on the 1st of September, and that'll be it. And I think that will happen. I think Ross Barkley will come in, and I think it'll be a good signing. I'll be happy to have him. Kovacic, who I always confuse with Kovacevic, who used to play for Juventus years ago.
Yeah.
But Kovacic, he would be perfect for Tottenham. He'd be absolutely perfect. And this is my thing with Tottenham. And a few Spurs fans will have a go at me for saying this. But I'm not saying we're overrated, because I don't think that's true. I think we're a very good team. But if you listen to some people, they'll tell you this. We've got the best manager, the best goalkeeper, the best right fullbacks.
Danny boy, we lost him again.
I think Dan's being unfair on Poch, because I think he's obviously got a plan. Like, you don't just not sign anyone because you don't trust the players you have. And I think it actually, speaks dividends that someone has got that much trust in his players. He must see something. I think he came out of a comment like, why would I sign anyone if I'm happy, if they're not as good as the players I currently have, and I trust the youth system? And I think there's something to be said about that.
The thing that irritates me about Spurs, and not just because I'm a gooner, but the thing that really irritates me about Spurs is they're going through a transitional phase as a club. They're building a new stadium, which looks fantastic, by the way. And they're looking to kick on and push forward and become an established Champions League side, with the hope of pushing on, growing their revenue and looking to, challenge for titles again in the future. Now, Arsenal Football Club tried this. Arsenal Football Club built a new stadium. Arsenal Football Club struggled financially to compete with some of the big boys. Manchester City, Manchester United, and Chelsea can spend far bigger amounts of money than Arsenal or Tottenham can. And I refuse to believe that Tottenham's transfer business has not been affected by the building of that stadium. And I hear it every day from Spurs fans. I see it on our Facebook group. The stadium money was already put to one side, so we're fine. That's not why we're not signing players. I refuse to believe that. Daniel Levy needs to guide this club through a turbulent period, keep them in the Champions League if he can, and pay off the stadium. They've got commitments now. So I just find it really irritating when I hear from Spurs fans saying, we're not signed anyone because we just don't need anyone or we don't want anyone. It's not because we're financially struggling. They will be struggling because of this stadium. There's no doubt about that. Alavi, take your microphone off mute.
But as an Arsenal fan, you must know that sometimes you do things for the long-term benefit of the club, and that's clearly what they're doing.
Yeah,
so
I
think it's hard to criticise, really.
But I also think the way the rest of the division is going is very difficult to keep up the pace if you fall behind. They've lost Kyle Walker, so in my opinion, they're weaker now than they were last season. So, people will say, oh, Trippier will step in. But you're still a man down, and the man that you've lost was probably one of your better players last season. So in my book, that makes them weaker.
I think Kyle Walker performed, how do I say this, above his actual ability last season, which sounds stupid because that's how he played. But I'll be very surprised if you see that good a performance this season. I think he'll actually end up being on the bench towards the end of the year. Honestly, I don't know. Like we said earlier, Man City, I don't know what's going on. I couldn't tell you their start. Their back 3 or 4 or whatever it might be. Who else do you think's done quite good business then? The obvious one's West Ham, isn't it?
Well, yeah, West Ham have made some pretty impressive signings. Joe Hart, goalkeeper, Pablo Zabaleta, I should say. And the one for me...
Try and get your pronunciation right, Harry.
Listen,
we're a professional
show. I'm allowed one mistake now and again. Not like Alavi. We need subtitles under you when you speak.
We need them under Dan at the moment, but yeah.
For me, Javier Hernandez has been a fantastic capture. He's a man who clearly can score goals. He's done it everywhere he's been.
I feel like I looked up his record earlier, and it was something like 37 and 54 for Man United, 28 and 45 for Bayern Leverkusen, and 6 out of 16 for Madrid. So someone's missed the trick there. He could have gone to a bigger club, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's a man that can score goals. He's proven it. And to go for a fee of around about 16 million is...
Yeah.
When you compare how everyone else is going, that's astounding. Oh, my God, he's back. Dan, you're back.
Right. Me and the BT engineer, I've had broadband problems for the last 2 days. And embarrassingly, despite a solid day of blue on the home hub, it's let me down today. So, apologies to the viewers. My host, my co-host... I've let the family down today.
Give us your point about Spurs, and then we're briefly discussing who have made the best signings outside of the top 6. We've covered West Ham.
I was going to say West Ham. That's
That's the obvious. It's the obvious one. It's the obvious one. What were you going to say about Spurs? They got the best goalkeeper.
I was in the middle of a rant where Spurs fans would say we've got the best manager, the best goalkeeper, the best fullbacks, the best defenders, the best centre midfielders, the best attacking midfielders, and the best forwards. Well, that can't be right because we haven't won anything. So that's clearly not true, right? So where's the weak link? For me, the weak link is in centre midfield, defensive centre midfield. Okay, Wanyama's a beast. He's brilliant, like it, but he's not dynamic. So we win the ball, but he doesn't do an awful lot with it after that. You need him in there. You need a foil. To me, Dyer is not good enough, right? I've said if Man United wanted to pay 50 million for him, I would carry him there by piggyback because he's not good enough to be challenging, to be winning titles regularly. He would not, for me, fit in any of the top clubs in Europe. I'd be amazed if Man United bought him. I just don't see it. So I'd be looking. Even Dembele is one of the best players in the Premier League, but he's still missing a pass. Like, he's brilliant. He holds the ball up. He drives the defence into attack. But you need someone else in there, which is why Kovacic, which is who we started talking about, would be perfect because it's box to box is where we lack. So we've got good attacking midfielders. We've got a good destroyer, but we haven't got anyone in Kante's mould who can pick the ball up in defence and drive forward with it and pick a pass. Like, Kovacic doesn't chip in with many goals, but we've got enough goals going forward. So for me, it'd be a perfect signing. But there is still something missing at Tottenham that needs to be addressed. And I think it's that area there. All right, we're lacking a world-class player in the attacking midfield positions, but we're not going to get one of them. We're not going to pay the 100 million it takes. So let's forget that for a minute and try and work with what we got. But defensive midfield, if we could sign someone of Kovacic's standings, that is one pronunciation I struggle with. I'm normally good with pronouncing names. That one.
We've got another one.
That's the one. That's the one that does me. But if we could sign someone like that who's pushing on for 50 international caps, he's played at top clubs in Europe, he could bring something to the side. That'd be a good signing.
But I think that's the point, isn't it? The international caps. This is the summer. I said this just before you went off. This is the summer where you look at players who you think you're desperate to play in the World Cup. You're desperate to get as many games under your belt this season, and you're not guaranteed to start for Madrid. And this is when you go and get them. Not next summer, not last summer. That's where you get them. And that's why Spurs should go and get him now and pay an extra 10 million for him.
Yeah. And it's a really good point, especially in that Croatian midfield where you got Modric, Rakitic, Perisic. Yeah. The list goes on. It's full of talent. He needs to go somewhere. I don't believe any of the top English clubs are interested in him. So it's a no-brainer. I know relations between Tottenham and Real Madrid aren't at the highest, but this is business. We're not here to make friends. They've bought some of our players for stupid money, and hopefully Daniel Levy's not. I don't believe he'd put a relationship with a club at the detriment of his own club. He needs to. If he's available, he needs to go and get him. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I know we've covered West Ham, Harry. I'll tell you a couple of other clubs who I think have made quite good signings and see if you agree. And we'll go from it. Leicester, right? They've let go of like sort of a couple of squad players.
For God's sake. Are you for real?
No, I'll tell you why. Because all right, Sam Hughes, okay, he's more of a potential. They've signed the two players from Hull, haven't they? Harry Maguire and Jukovic. But the one I rate is Iborra. I know I said it earlier, but I'm very biased towards La Liga, but he really impresses me. And for someone who's 12 million, someone who's that versatile, someone who is powerful, he's good in the air, he's got a habit of arriving late in the box. He'll get you 6 goals, guaranteed a season. I know you're going to say, yeah, but they're going to lose Mahrez, but sometimes you've just got to accept the players you lose, and you look at someone's business on who they brought in and take away the player that it's just unfair on them trying to keep. Like Everton are another example, right? You can't say, oh yeah, but they lost Lukaku, but he was going to go. So you just park that there and you think, right, they've signed Pickford, they've signed Keane, Clarkson, who will get you, another 10, 15 goals. Obviously Rooney's a great buy. Do you see what I mean? Go on,
Before you jump the gun and go on to Everton, Leicester have not done good business, in my opinion. Harry Maguire is nothing but a lump. He is a lump. That is all he is. He's an awful
They won the
footballer.
Premier League with 2 lumps. You forget that.
Awful. And look what happened to them the season after. He's a lump. He is a lump. He's useless. He's absolutely useless. Don't believe the hype. If he was from Spain, he'd have been laughed out of this country the day he walked onto the pitch. I'm sorry. He's awful. Jukovic is nothing more than a bang average goalkeeper. He's not better than the goalkeeper they've currently got. Is it just a sign-in to strengthen the squad? Perhaps. Iborra is okay. He's a decent player. He's not going to set the world on fire, in my opinion. I think Leicester sealed their fate and destroyed themselves when they decided to persist with Craig Shakespeare, because he's not good enough. He came in and he supposedly turned around the team. That team couldn't have got any worse at that period in time.
But he still did a job, Harry. I don't see how you can say... You have to give him credit for what he did.
I don't give him any credit. And I guarantee you he'll be... If I had to stick my neck on the line here, I think he'll be gone by Christmas. I genuinely believe that.
But that's because of the owners, not because he'll do a bad job.
I genuinely don't think he will do a good job. I think the situation Leicester were in last season and the way things happened with Claudio Ranieri, I honestly believe anyone could have come in and their results would have picked up, because the players weren't playing for Ranieri anymore.
To be fair, though, what do you call a good job at Leicester now?
Yeah.
Because I don't know the answer to that question now. That's the one team.
For me, Leicester are mid-table.
Mid-table.
So mid-table 13th or mid-table 9th?
Anywhere between 9th and 13th.
15th.
No, it depends. It depends how the season goes.
So if Shakespeare gets sacked within those, and he's within those positions, you're going to say that's harsh?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, Alavi...
We saw you eat your words a few times last season, so we'll see it again.
Well, I also said at the beginning of the season, last season, that Pep would struggle. You absolutely took the piss out of me. And
moving on, I think Crystal
even made me
Palace
apologise.
have done really good.
No, let's move on to Everton.
Now, Everton have done... I think it depends how you look at Everton, doesn't it? Like, my point earlier is, okay, those players are not going to give you what Lukaku gives you, but it never does. When Man United sold Ronaldo, or Dan will know with Bale, 3-4 players, they're not the same as a 70, 80 million pound player that gets you everything. But I think Everton have done reasonably well, and they're bang on to finish 7th, definitely.
Yeah, I think this is why the point about replacing Bale or Suarez with 6 or 7 players, it doesn't work. And this is why I'm big on Tottenham signing Ross Barkley. Because, 1, I think he's a good player. 2, I think he needs a change, and I think Spurs will freshen him up. But more importantly, Dele Alli is the type of player. His personality tells me he's the type of player who will leave in a year or 2. And if he leaves in a year or 2, to have a player that's already been there a season is absolutely huge. So that's one reason why I've been banging on about us getting Barkley in early, because it makes sense. But in terms of Everton's business, they've added 2 very good additions for me in Pickford and Keane, the centre half. Areas they needed to freshen up, and they've done it with players that were sought after by other clubs. So they can consider that a coup. They're going to bring in Gylfi Sigurdsson. They're going to pay big money for Sigurdsson as well, and I think he's a really good player, Sigurdsson. And the transfer fee, I know everyone's is sniffing at it, but I think he's worth that sort of money when you think how much Swansea would suffer without him, and the financial element of Swansea going down. 50 million for their best player is the asking price, and it's fair enough.
I think he was worth that to Swansea because he
exactly.
Premier League.
That's
I don't think he's worth that to somebody else though.
Yeah.
No, but that's what a transfer is. It's the amount to the selling club, isn't it? That's what the value is. So
didn't Everton beat Arsenal to the signing of someone like a few weeks ago? I imagine
the unknown Henry.
They signed Henry Onyekuru, striker playing in Belgium was playing in Belgium,
like for 10 million or something.
But do you know what? Were Arsenal ever really in for him? I don't. If Arsenal were working on this Lacazette deal at that time, which obviously they were because it's come to fruition now, was he really a target?
It's not a deal you're going to lose sleep over, is it?
No.
But in terms of Everton, again, they're the 7th best team in the league. Have they done enough to overhaul Liverpool or Arsenal? I'm not so sure. But I think they're future-proof their side a little bit. So they've brought in some younger players. The players who were going to go are going anyway. I think again they've done some good business, but more importantly they've done it early, and I think that's got to be worth a mention. Doing business early, getting a good pre-season under your belt, but they've got a tough job to do. There's six very good sides in the Premier League now, and to break into that, it's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, agree. There's a lot.
I think we'll see. Do you know what? I think we'll see a top 7 this year. I really do. I think basically it'll be a 3, like the big money spending 3, and I think it'll be a 4. I think this could be Everton's year to creep in. Who else? Palace. Palace were the other ones I think have done all right, because I like Loftus-Cheek. I think he's not a bad player to get on loan. I think Chelsea have 2 or 3 players out on loan, and I think the sides who have got them are going to benefit. And they've got the Riderwood, the defender, who'll just slot into a back 3. But I'm pretty sure De Boer's going to play because he always plays that. So who else? Bournemouth actually quite well. Defoe, Bergovic.
The goalkeeper is a good.
They make Nathan Acker, yeah. So
I've just checked. Sorry, Chelsea have got 3,206 players out on loan. Just googled that.
What? So, 3,206.
Yeah, they just buy everyone and loan everyone. So,
my word. That's absolutely crazy. Well, guys, we've spoken about the deals that have already gone through and some of the potential ones. I think to finish off this edition of the show, I'm just going to run through a couple of transfer rumors that are covering the back pages at the moment, and I just want to hear your thoughts on how likely you think these deals are going to be. Quick answers. Let's go around the group. Neymar to PSG. Is it happening? DeLuca.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It is. I would have said no last week, but yeah, that's going to happen. He didn't travel with Barcelona yesterday. I think he's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the reason, Harry, is I know I was going to cover La Liga, so I'll just do it within this one bit instead. You looking at Barca, they've only signed, is it Semedo, Deulofeu and Marlon for, I don't know, a combination of 25 to 30, 40 million. Now, that's not Barcelona in a transfer market, is it? So I think that they're willing to let someone go because they've got a big player coming in.
Coutinho?
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're looking at 200 million for Neymar and then 2 sets of 100 million pound players, one of them being Coutinho, definitely by the end of next season. So yeah, I mean, there's no smoke without fire, is there? I think Neymar's gone. Not many players want to play second fiddle to Mr. Lionel Messi, so he'll have to accept it or go.
Fair point. Let's move on to that one. So there's reports, in the Sunday Mirror today that Alexis Sanchez is ready to submit a transfer request and force through a move to Manchester City. Now, Arsene Wenger's been adamant in his press conferences over the weekend that nothing's changed and Alexis will remain an Arsenal player next season. Alavi, quick answer. Can you see Sanchez leaving this summer?
Oh, sorry. Am I allowed to sit on the fence?
What? Don't you do that all the
Splinters.
time? Is he going? Is he staying?
I want to be wrong, but I think he'll actually stay.
You're filling me with confidence right now. DeLuca, is he going or is he staying?
Fucking hell. Is he going? Is he going or is he staying?
Better remind me to put the explicit content thing on when we post.
Yeah, like PG or whatever. I mean, he's going, isn't he? And he still hasn't gone. Why hasn't he gone yet? Yeah, he's going. He's going. It's gonna be like a 23:59 transfer deadline day business. I think Arsenal don't want to sell him to City, and they're holding out for another club, and that's what the delay is.
Yeah. Manchester United have been linked with Ivan Perisic for most of the summer. Inter Milan boss Luciano Spalletti is strongly opposed to the 28-year-old Croatian winger leaving. Will he stay? Will he go? Can you see that one happening? I think that if Man United really want him, they'll get him somehow.
I think he's a class player. I know you just think I'm going to be biased because I like Mourinho, but I really like him. So I'd like him to get him just so Arsenal suffer against him.
Yeah. Right. Next one.
Honestly.
Next one, because we're running short on time. Let's jump on to the next one. Mbappe. What's going to happen to him?
So I think Real Madrid want him, and I think it's for around 160 million. And you think they've made half of that just selling to Danilo, and they've only signed Hernandez from, I think, Atletico for 25 million, and Ceballos from Betis for like or so. So again, it's what I said with Barca. There has to be like a big issue with those clubs every summer, right? And there hasn't been. So, but you've got the Neymar, and I think Mbappe will go to Madrid.
Do you think their lack of spending at the moment is down to this fair play business, financial fair play?
Well, it's not affecting City, is it?
Well,
I don't get what's going on. I know what you're going to say because it is affecting them, but they're going to get around it.
Well, my next point was, it's come out today
in
the Sunday Telegraph that Manchester City are back on UEFA's financial fair play watch list after their spending spree this summer. What does that mean, though? They're on the watch list, but they can still spend it. It seems a bit pointless.
As far as I understand, and I only briefly saw this, a club can get like sort of like a special exclusion, but if you've already been on the list, then you're not allowed. If you're like on the watch list, then you're not allowed to be excluded. So it's like really weird. Basically, they'll buy their way out of it, but it's an interesting one. Like it's one of those where you're thinking, well, how does it exist if like they're buying all these players? But that's why you see like all these like squad players just like let go and stuff.
Yeah, it looks as though Roma are going to start looking at other possibilities after their most recent offer for Algerian winger Riyad Mahrez was rejected. Are Leicester asking too much for this player, Dan?
Again, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they ask a lot for him? He's been a massive player from 2 seasons ago. What are they going to do? What are they going to do with 30 million? They can't replace him. They should hold out. I just got a sneaky feeling he's going to end up in North London, and I'm not going to tell you which club either because I haven't decided. But I think he'll end up. I think if the Barkley deal falls through, Spurs will buy him at like midnight, or if Sanchez fires out on deadline day, then Arsenal might pick him up. I don't think he's going to go to Roma. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to end up in North London somewhere.
Harry doesn't like Mahrez, so we won't want him.
Well, I just think Theo Walcott's new hairstyle makes him look like Mahrez, so you might as well just keep him.
That's good. Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, cheaper. A couple more just to finish off on. Newcastle want to sign Arsenal striker Lucas Perez, despite his desire to join former club Deportivo La Coruña. Alavi, will Perez be a good addition for Benitez's side?
Well, his goals at Arsenal, obviously, going to be a credit for to any side, really, aren't they? So I think, like I wrote in the article on that was a joke, by the way. Thanks for laughing. On the Facebook group, that is Newcastle are worrying people with their sort of quite quiet activity because they're the primary side that should be buying those sorts of players. So, like it's like we've said before, like why not? Like if he's available, He's experienced. He has got goals in him despite, his time at Arsenal. So if I was Benitez, that's someone I'd go for sooner rather than later. Like, get it over and done with.
Fair enough. And the last one that we're going to finish off on tonight, because once again we've run over, lads. I want to put this one out to Dan just to make sure he has a sleepless night. Tottenham's Belgium defender Toby Alderweireld says zero progress has been made regarding a new deal at the club. What's the chances that someone's going to come in and make a bid and tempt him away?
Not this summer. Not this summer, but I would like him to have signed a new deal by Christmas. Otherwise, I'll be a little worried, because let's be clear, he's our most important player. Forget what everyone tells you about Kane, Ali, everyone else. This guy is a centre half who has transformed the team, who have not been able to defend in their 100 and whatever year history, to a team that has been the best defence like 2 years running. This guy is the most important player. Got to nail him down. He won't be going anywhere this summer. That's not going to happen. But they need to get that deal signed pretty quickly.
So
and
no sleepless nights just yet, then.
Not for that reason. Not for that reason. Maybe sleepless nights over my broadband situation. But other than that, furious, absolutely fuming.
Right. That brings us to the end of another edition of the Sofa Sports News Show. I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors and partners, the FNX Network, Delta Plumbing Services, Greek Beat Radio, Shoot the Defence, and the Mandem Podcast. Thank you for your continued support. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn Radio, and you can catch this one on YouTube, of course, YouTube channel Sofa Sports News TV. Hit us up on Facebook, Sofa Sports News, the Football Fan Network. We've got a page and a group. Get involved and follow us on Twitter at Sofa Sports News _. Once again, thank you for listening, and that's all, folks.
Shout out to Stel.